The NBC on the 3rd of August placed a 5 million naira fine on Trust TV over the broadcast of its documentary titled Nigeria's Banditry, The Inside Story. MultiChoice, Star Times and TSTV were also fined 5 million naira each by the NBC for running the BBC's own documentary on banditry titled The Bandit Warlords of Zamfara, which it claimed contravened certain sections of the Broadcasting Code. Now, this, which they say is undermining the nation's current fight against terrorism and banditry. Well, to analyze this situation right here in the studio, we are joined by Suleiman, who is a university don and has some unique insights as to this current situation between the NBC and these media outlets. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Malik.
It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, Sonny.
All right, so let's just go straight into it and let's have some. You saw the documentary.
Yes.
And this documentary was aired in March.
Yes.
After previews and premieres and all that. Because when I saw the fanfare that was used to actually put the documentary out there, I was surprised because I hardly see things like this, you know. So which means a lot of work had actually gone into it, and it was aired in March. Now we're in August, and that is when the hammer is coming down from the NBC. As an observer, did you see that coming?
Not at all, you know, because I was not just an observer about this. I was actually part of its production. I was there at the screening when it was premiered, and there were lots of guests there. Some of them from even outside of the country, you know, development agencies and so on. And the documentary, we watched it, and people raised quite a lot of significant issues in this quite, you know, feedback. But there was no one, not one single person there or anywhere at any time after that who thought that the documentary was inciting, you know, criminality or inciting public panic or inciting the masses against security agencies or anything of the kind. And these are the issues that the NBC is now rely on, you know, on its provisions in its various codes, that the documentary glorifies and glamorizes bandits, you know, and also incites public panic, public anger, and also glamorizes criminality higher and above law and order. I don't think anything can be further from the truth. And what the NBC really needs to know, and it's important that the security agencies make the NBC aware that the media in every country is in fact a part of the security architecture of that country. It is not like media are outside. They're outside of government, yes, but they are part of the security architecture of the country. For example, taxi drivers. Taxi drivers are not part of the government, but they are also within the security architecture of any country that is serious about security, because they help to collect intelligence. They're the ones who pick people from airports, from train stations, right? From bus stations and ride people across town and within cities and towns. So they gather. That's a structure you can use to collect a lot of information, and many countries use that structure to collect a lot of information. The media is in the same level, only just more so.
Since the news of the fine, I mean, starting with the heads up from the minister after that briefing, in your own private reflection, as somebody who has not only practiced in this climb, but has had the benefit to travel the world over, do you think that the Nigerian government missed the opportunity that was provided by this documentary?
Absolutely, absolutely.
They misunderstand what advantages this would have provided and other channels they would have taken advantage of in the light of the expose that was carried out by Trust TV.
Absolutely. The documentary is the mildest kind of documentary you can imagine. It was sober and reflective, you know. It was not in any way inflammatory or whatever. It's conducted by Abdulaziz. Everyone knows Abdulaziz. He's an expert in the field, you know, and all of us, the gatekeeping process, that was part of it. And don't forget that we're also working with the Center for Democracy and Development, who have experts, both within and beyond the country on issues of security in the northern region, but across the country as a whole. What this documentary sought to do is every day we read stories about banditry, about bandits here in Zamfara, bandits here in Sokoto, people being kidnapped there, people. The documentary wanted to ask, what is really going on? How did this start? And most importantly, what can we do about it? So if you look at the range of voices that were sampled within the documentary itself, the scholars, residents, people who have previously been victims, including, of course, the emir, the sitting emir of Bungudu in Zamfara State, who himself was once kidnapped and stayed in the kidnappers' den for 30 days. These were the kinds of voices that the documentary tried to highlight. I really wonder how that can, just quickly transform into a media product that incites or incitement. Thank you. I don't see the connection between that documentary and incitement. And don't get me wrong. The reason why broadcasting codes exist in Nigeria is because of the fragile nature of the Nigerian state. That's an important and fair situation, So it is important for the NBC to try to regulate media production, to try to regulate broadcasting production, particularly because broadcasting reaches much more people than newspapers.
Without cutting your thought there.
Okay.
Even though the broadcasting codes exist, they are not a buffet. You cannot choose what to apply and what not to. And even in application, you cannot determine the range or provide a different interpretation to what it is. Because they've talked about inciting public disturbances. And they talk in the one first swoop, they talk about corporate social responsibility. And so the question for me really is this just a difficult time for Trust TV or the entire broadcasting landscape? Because this does appear to be some subtle approach to government regulation through the back doors. Because you can't just refer to anything and then slam a ban. In a corporate setting, as the one you function, where you have doubts about the motives of the actions of your staff, you give the benefit of response.
Yes.
In this case, that opportunity was not provided. Yes. No kind of conversations was had around this. You just made a public pronouncement after another station had done something similar, and then you sort of apply the armor retrogressively. What does this whole thing portend for the practice of journalism in Nigeria?
Two things. First of all, the difficult times you are talking about, it's a difficult time not for broadcasting organizations, not for Trust TV or the Trust Media Group, but for the government and the security agencies. They're dealing with situations that they have been ill-prepared to deal with, and which, unfortunately, because they've been going on for a while, they have not really raised themselves to be prepared to deal with. And because these things keep happening, whether you broadcast it or not, Nigerians know they happen. People know that in the various communities, people get kidnapped, people get abducted, people get killed, properties get destroyed. These things are happening. And government is at a loss how to address them. My feeling, and I'm speaking entirely as Suleiman here, my feeling is that they're looking for a straw man, someone to hold on to and then push the, kind. It won't solve the problem, really, because what they need to do, where they need to see Daily Trust and Trust TV and all the other media group, is to see us as partners, actually, which we have been. Because the idea that you should broadcast only, or you should broadcast that which emphasizes the superiority of law over criminality is exactly what we do every day. I don't know if they monitor our content, but that's what we do every day. Anytime there is military or people in military and security operations against bandits, we're always the first to report it. We're always the first to highlight it, you know, that soldiers have killed this and this many. We do that all of the time. But our job is not to speak only what government wants to hear. Our job is for and on behalf of the Nigerian people, in behalf of public interest. And that documentary was 100% in the public interest.
Well, since this pronouncement by the federal government through the NBC, there has been an outpouring of support.
Yes.
And a lot of people have bandied around talking about press freedom, showing support and solidarity with Trust TV and, of course, media trust in general. Were you surprised with the level of support that has actually been generated by this?
No, not at all, not at all. In fact, I expect more.
Okay.
And I believe that more of it is going to come. One reason is because the Nigerian media has a long history of fighting for its own freedom. You know, this is instead. The Nigerian media is older than the Nigerian state. By 1914, you already had newspapers in the country, and they already knew what press freedom was. They already knew what doing journalism in the public interest was, and they were doing it. You know, and they used that position that they had gained even before the creation of the country. You know, to fight for other causes, the independence of Nigeria, democracy, and then good governance, which is what all of this is about.
Exactly.
Because what the documentary? Okay, if you understand a problem, you are better able to solve that problem. So the documentary wanted to show that this is the problem. These are the various dimensions and the various layers of this problem. Anyone who wants to solve that problem should regard that content as intelligence, as research, freely provided, because they didn't have to pay for it. You know, ordinarily this is something they would have paid for. The Nigerian military should be sponsoring research, you know, should be sponsoring even documentaries of that kind, because the U.S. military and militaries around the world do the same. You know, so if there is any worry at all, it is that I expect more of that support to come, because you cannot sanction democracy. You cannot sanction freedom. You know, this is what has already been provided by this constitution. You know, and we're all doing our jobs. But in our day-to-day functions as journalists and as security people and as government and as even regulators in the NBC, what needs to be understood is the partnership that still binds us all, because we're all working for common good. It's not that we in Media Trust have a different country. It's the same Nigeria that we have. And we all want a better Nigeria. And we're all doing our little bits, you know, in ways that we understand it and in ways that we are professionally called to do to advance that better Nigeria idea. This is what it's all about. And it's important that the regulatory agencies and the security agencies understand that. Thank you.
Before I let Doc goes, it's important we also put out this information.
Thank you.
Probably they are not also looking at how much this has elicited the understanding of Nigerian from the other side of the divide. So every time we talk about these trillions budgeted for security in the North, it sort of feels like money going to waste. Now people are putting a face to this budget, understanding the precarious situation of the people on this other side and what we really need to do. Sometimes the argument is that we need to, in fact, double the budgeting to these areas to be able to nip this in the bud. But you said something very instructive, and I would like you to expand on that as your closing remarks. The need for the military to own the narrative. And the fact that the media is there as partners to enable them on this narrative. Because sometimes you are even begging them to give you information to tell their side of the story. How much of opportunities exist, you know, for the military architecture, you know, to take advantage of the media and see them as partners in progress to advance this whole fight for a safer Nigeria?
Thank you very much. Very important question. If you read this blockbuster CIA novels, you know, and so on, one of the things you learn quickly is that intelligence officers and security organizations, both within those that operate within a country and those that operate across the country. For example, Nigeria's National Intelligence Agency or the DSS, and military intelligence and all. The first source for intelligence about the security of a country is the media. So CIA intelligence officers or intelligence officers of all kinds of organizations, the first thing they do is to survey the news to see what yes, So that brings them in close contact with media people, with media organizations, and in many cases, many countries understand the power and the reach that the media can have, For example, how many officers do you have in the Nigerian army? How many officers do you? They cannot be a match for all the journalists in this country. They cannot be a match for the distribution of these journalists across various points in the country. So you have people in small locations where your reach as a security outfit cannot reach. And these people have a medium that reaches everyone, including yourself. And then they gather information about things and publish that, in ways that are professionally determined, So you make use of this as part of your intelligence architecture, security architecture, as you said. So my understanding and my appeal this time around, because what this is all about is that we all want a better Nigeria. I was shocked about fines. What happens to discussion first? The NBC invites the leadership, what were your motivations for this? And they hear from us. You understand? That's what a democratic organization, even one that is trying to regulate practitioners in the field, that's what they would do. Invite us. What are your motivations? What are these behind this? Have you looked at these scenes in the documentary? Don't you think? And then we will answer. And if they are not satisfied with our answers, then they can take it to a different level. And chances are that if they had done that, under that friendly and collegial environment of people who are partners, because we are indeed partners. And it's important for all those concerned to understand this.
Thank you very much, Doc. I will have to
Thank you.
Hold you there. Every session with a Doctor of Communication, it's a masterclass, I can assure you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you in the studio, shed more light on this conversation. I think with the incidents of the last few days, the media narrative, it has opened up a new chapter of conversation, I'm sure, that will go beyond this shores on how the media can partner security agencies to advance the cause of a nation.
Thank you.